Hi everybody. Thank you for attending our Taking Charge of Your Tax and Retirement Planning webinar tonight. So just a short introduction of the presenters today. So I'm Nicole from CPF Board from the Outreach and Partnerships Department.
I'm Ying from IRAS.
So today we'll be sharing more about taking charge of your tax and retirement planning. So just before we jump into that, some administrative matters to take note of. So because we're in webinar mode today, the chat function will only be used to broadcast messages. So if you have any questions on technical difficulties or even tax related or retirement planning CPF related questions, you can submit them through the Q&A tab. But please do make sure that you do not share your personal details. So if the video happens to not be moving, you can leave and rejoin the session again, and it will probably solve the issue. So without further ado, maybe let's dive straight into the webinar itself. So before that, we'd like to know who is here in this webinar with us tonight. So there will be a poll launching up soon. So we would like to know what kind of SEP are you? Are you a sole proprietor, for example, home-based business owner, property agent, financial advisor, so on and so forth. So while the poll is being launched, maybe Ying, can you take a guess, or maybe who do you think will be with us tonight? Like, who do you think? How many? Who do you think will be the majority of joining us tonight?
Right. Okay. So based on past experience, I think probably the financial advisor. Most of the time.
I would think so as well.
Yeah.
So that's true lah. Usually we have financial advisors, but maybe recently we have seen maybe a small shift depending on the topic of our webinar. Sometimes we see more coaches, instructors, tuition teachers as well.
Tuition teacher. Okay.
So okay, maybe there's some technical difficulties.
Okay.
No poll. Okay, it's okay. So even though there's no poll, maybe whoever you are, what type of SCP you are, we hope that this webinar will still be useful for you. So you apply for yourself, and maybe you can bring home some takeaways and turn into actionable actions after this webinar.
Right.
Okay. So moving on, can activate the slide. Okay. So moving on, just a short introduction. I'm sure all of you know the definition of an SCP, but just for introduction, an SCP is somebody who is under contract for service. So for example, you are an individual with your own business and you work for yourself. So any of the stated occupations, as I mentioned before, and you're also a Singapore citizen or PR, and you derive a net trade income, which is NTI for short, for any trade, profession, or vocation. So maybe Ying, can you share with us more about how they can understand the taxes further?
Yeah, definitely. So basically, first of all, right, for self-employed persons, right, what you need to take note of when reporting your income the following year, that is actually that you are supposed to report your income under business income. They are not supposed to be your salary because you are like sole proprietor or self-employed. Okay, unless you are actually open, as in you're holding a private limited company, then so there'll be a separate legal entity. You will be considered as an employee. Then your income will be reported under salary portion. But for self-employed person, right, you will be reporting your income under business income. So business income will actually be part of the total personal income. So for example, if let's say you have employment income, you have rental income, and you have business income, you will actually report all under your individual income, and then IRAS will actually apply taxes based on the individual income tax rates.
Okay.
So this is just a very simple computation of individual income tax. So as you can see, right, if I say you're holding a business, if you have sales or you have revenue, for example, in this case, it's actually $50,000, and then you could actually minus off allowable business expenses. So say, for example, the allowable business expenses is $8,000. So your net trade income will be $42,000. So but we don't tax you based on your net trade income. So we will further minus away any donation or any personal reliefs. So eventually, when you come out to this chargeable income, that is where IRAS will actually apply taxes based on the chargeable income. Yeah, so on the right hand side, you can actually see how we compute the taxes, because for individual income tax, right, it is actually based on progressive tax rate for tax resident. So for this case, right, like for example, first 30,000 is actually $200. Subsequent $6,000 is actually 3.5%. Yeah, so for individual income tax rates, right, it is actually a progressive tax rate ranging from 0% all the way to the highest of 24%.
I see.
Correct.
So actually, is the trade income reflected in the notice of assessment that the self-employed persons will receive? Is it gross or net trade income?
Okay. So this is an example of the notice of assessment. Yeah. So you can see under trade itself, right? The amount stated over there is actually net of the business expenses. So you will not be able to see your gross income in the notice of assessment. But however, when you report to IRAS, you will report the gross and your expenses, such that when we do out your notice of assessment, it will only reflect the net income, the net trade income. Yeah, correct. Yeah. So just now we did mention a little about business expenses. So allowable business expenses, right? You can actually claim against your trade income. But however, you may need to take note is that personal or capital expenses is actually not deductible. Yeah. So what we meant by personal or capital expenses, for example, like personal insurance, private expenses, like for example, if let's say you and your family go for dinner, such expenses is actually private expenses. Okay, and another very common question is actually expenses relating to private cars. Say for example, because we don't know what's your profile like, but just in case you are actually a commission agent, then you may actually travel around using your private car. Yeah, so even though it is actually meant for business purposes, right, you will not be able to deduct such expenses against your trade income. Yeah, because this is actually prohibited as in under the Income Tax Act itself. Yeah, correct.
So maybe I can ask another question. So for example, if I take Grab or Gojek, is that counted as public transport expenses as well?
Yeah, correct. So Grab and Gojek is actually considered as a public transport. So like for example, taxi, Grab, Gojek, they are all public transport. So you could actually collate the expenses, and then you can you could actually claim as allowable business expenses.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is another simpler way for expense declaration. This is what we call as a fixed expenses deduction ratio. So currently, right, there's actually 3 groups of self-employed person could actually claim for such fixed expense deduction ratio. Yeah, so who are they? They are actually the private hire car driver or taxi drivers, okay, and the commission agents, okay, as well as the newly announced delivery for delivery drivers. Yeah, so maybe I will just briefly mention a bit about this FEDR. So for example, for a commission agent, right, if let's say their gross income, their gross commission is actually less 50,000 or lesser, they could actually claim 25% expenses. So it's in a way a dim expense for them to claim against their gross income. Yeah, so it's currently it's only catered for individuals as in commission agent whose gross income is actually 50,000 and lower. We are still reviewing on the higher the higher income earner. Yeah, so but for now it is still at $50,000. Okay, and another group is actually the private hire car driver or the taxi. So this is actually across the whole industry that they can actually claim up to 60% of their as their deductible expenses against their gross income. Yeah, all this percentage is actually based on studies, our interview with our stakeholders that we gotten all these figures. So it is so far it is really whatever as in it's quite as in fit into whatever they are supposed to claim lah. Yeah. Okay, and of course the new one which is going to be released next year. We will announce more of this next year, but do look out for this for delivery workers. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. So since we are in the expenses portion, right? So self-employed person is actually you are required to keep proper records and accounts, so that the income earned and the business expenses claim can be determined. So just in case, this is actually just in case IRAS ever query or ever request for any supporting documents, so that you can actually forward to us directly. Yeah. So how long are you supposed to keep all this documentation? So all this documentation is supposed to keep for 5 years. Yeah. So just for example, if let's say it is actually for year of assessment 2021, right? That's actually the record for calendar year 1st January 2020 to 31st December 2020. So when we are talking about 5 years, this year's record is supposed to keep until 31st December 2025. Yeah. Then we do have this simplified record keeping for smaller businesses. So basically to simplify record keeping, right? They are only required to keep records itself. So for example, records means that probably their statement of accounts, their balance sheet, all this. Yeah, but then for receipts or invoices, right? They do not need to keep a copy of that. Yep, correct.
Just now when you mentioned you have to keep them for 5 years, right? So in my mind, I imagine like a whole stack of receipts, like small pieces here and there.
Yeah.
And sometimes receipts will fade over time. So is it okay if like I take a picture or I scan it and then I save it in soft copy?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So this is actually quite a good way to practice your record keeping. Yes, we do understand that receipt might fade. And it could be a very huge chunk of receipts. So so we have all been digitalized. So yes, you could actually keep it as a soft copy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
correct.
do I need to submit all these supporting documents over to IRAS if like I'm claiming the expenses?
Okay. So during filing itself, when you claim for the expenses, right, you do not need to submit your supporting documents together with your filing. So you will just do your submission to IRAS. If IRAS ever request for any supporting documents, we will actually write to you, and then eventually you will just provide us with your supporting documents.
Okay, so I just need to make sure I keep in the correct file online.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. So actually I heard that there are some changes to the net trade income declaration from next year onwards, 2024. So maybe can you elaborate more on this?
Correct. Yeah. So if some of you may recall, currently, right, there are certain groups of individuals or SEP may report your net trade income directly to IRAS. Yeah. So via IRAS website, using their SingPass. Yeah. So going forward from year 2024 onwards, right? IRAS will be the sole agency collecting all this information. So if let's say you would like to declare your income to IRAS for government payouts, like for example WIS. Yeah. So you do not go to CPF board already. So you will come to us. Of course, if let's say you receive IRAS notification telling you to file your income tax, right? You regardless of how much you earn, you are supposed to declare to IRAS. Yeah. If not, right, if your net trade income for that year is more than $6,000, you will still declare to IRAS. However, if let's say your net trade income is actually less than $6,000, right? Previously, or rather, prior to year 2024, right, you will actually declare to CPF board. But going forward, right, from the 1st January 2024 onwards, right, if this group of SEPs, right, you will all report everything to IRAS. So you just take note if let's say because normally during January to February the year itself, right, we will actually inform individuals whether you need to file or not. If you did not receive any notification from IRAS, but however you would like to declare to IRAS for some government payouts or so, right? You come forth to IRAS. you may contact IRAS, and then we will explain to you how you may actually declare your income.
Okay, yeah. So for backdated declaration, no worries. You can still write into CPF board and it will assess accordingly.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So now we move on to the next portion on understanding our personal reliefs as well as tax planning further.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So since we are trying to plan taxes itself, right? So other than just now what we mentioned, allowable business expenses, right? Another way to reduce on your taxes you may want to take note is actually on this individual income tax relief. Yeah. So this relief is actually applicable to all Singapore tax residents. So as you can see, this is actually some of the reliefs available for IRAS. So like for example, your spouse's relief, your earned income relief, all this. Okay, whatever is stated is actually highlighted in green, right? It's actually auto included. What we meant by auto included is that the agency will actually auto transmit the information to IRAS. Then we will auto grant this relief. Instead, that means we do not need you to actually go and claim the certain relief yourself. Yeah, so one of the examples, since we are in this CPF webinar, right? Yeah, so one of the example is actually a CPF relief. It could be a CPF cash top-up relief or just a general CPF relief for self-employed or employees. Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So it's actually a relief to hear that I don't have to claim so much for all these different types of reliefs.
Yes, correct. Yeah. Yeah. So so since there's this like MediSave or the CPF relief itself, right? Actually IRAS do receive some inquiries from member of publics asking how do they find out how much of MediSave contribution they will need to make. Yeah, so maybe you can explain
I feel
more.
that this is like especially important for self-employed persons, right? Because they have to make mandatory and MediSave contributions. So there are two factors on the determining the amount of contribution that you need to make. So it's computed based on your age and your net trade income, which are assessed by IRAS, right? Yeah. So you can actually tap on our CPF, on the CPF website, you can actually tap on the self-employed MediSave contribution calculator to actually calculate the amount of MediSave that you need to contribute. So we find that this calculator is actually quite useful because it allows you to set aside the monies that you need in terms of fulfilling your MediSave obligations. Yeah. So you can also check your MediSave that is payable at the self-employment dashboard by logging into the CPF website using your SingPass.
Okay, yeah. So with this calculator, it really helps the self-employed to
correct. So
to
you have
roughly gauge how
manually
much.
calculate and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah. So another inquiry is actually on the computation. So they might not want to know how to do the computation. So yes, as in we know that there's actually this calculator going on, but probably just a brief explanation on how to do the calculation.
Sure. So this table is a good overview on like where you stand at lah. So the amount that you need to contribute, as I mentioned, is based on your NTI and your age. So like maybe I'll give you an example. So let's say somebody is between 45 to 50 years old and he or she is earning an NTI of above $18,000. So the amount that you need to contribute to your MediSave will be 10% of your NTI. Yeah, but no worries, there's a cap on it. So the maximum will be 7.2K. So this is how you sort of calculate or gauge how much you will need to contribute to your MediSave as an SEP.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So is there any deadline for them to make such contribution?
Yes, of course. So from the date of issuance of the notice of computation from IRAS or notice of contribution from CPF board, you have actually 30 days to make your MediSave contributions. So there are various payment modes available for you. The first one and the most recommended one is of course gyro installments, right? Because it allows you to do auto deduction from your bank account, so you don't have to keep track and worry about making these payment modes every when the time comes. And also because when you use gyro, right, it allows you to have some form of cash flow for your business requirements. Because you can pay in installments. So so other than paying installments, you can also actually pay lump sum lah, if you are able to. And with that, you have the benefit of earning interest from your MA actually much earlier. With the power of compound interest.
Yes, correct.
So other than using gyro installments, you can use eCashier on our CPF website, or you can pay, you can use a MediSave. The payment of MediSave can be alternatively arranged with the board as well.
Okay. Gyro, I believe gyro will be interest-free, right?
Yes, yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So that's another benefit as well.
Yes, correct. Okay, so much so about MediSave itself, right? Maybe you can actually explain how do actually the self-employed benefit from the MediSave contribution?
Yes, so actually for CPF, our MediSave accounts, we actually support you for your healthcare financing, right? Because for SEPs, especially, or maybe these healthcare related expenses are more related to SEPs that you may face. So there are three different sort of criteria on three different circumstances that you need as an SEP, right? So first will be you may be more vulnerable to cash flow issues if you are faced with unexpected medical emergencies, either yourself or your family that you need to pay for.
Right.
Yeah. So these are things that, you know, touch wood, you don't plan for these kind of things to happen. It may happen when and wherever, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So if you do not have a fund or saved aside or set aside for these kind of rainy days, then you know you may face some cash flow issues lah.
Correct.
Yeah. So for this, you actually have your MA savings to help you with that. So your MA savings actually help to pay for your lower healthcare expenses, so you don't have to worry about that.
Right.
Yeah. So next for SEPs, you may not have corporate health benefits that, as compared to like salary workers,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
So for example, if you have work injuries, you may be exposed to large medical bills, right? Or hospitalized for long periods of time. So for that, there is no corporate medical insurance to cover you for that. Yeah. But not to worry, we have MediShield Life.
Right.
Yeah, so MediShield Life is actually a healthcare insurance that supports your large hospitalization bills, and it covers you for life, right? Yeah, as the name suggests. So the third scenario is when, as I mentioned, maybe you're you know, in bed rest for long periods of time. And for SEPs, maybe sometimes if you don't work, it equates to no income, right? So there's an income loss due to your prolonged illness and injuries, which will really affect how you are able to pay for your day-to-day expenses lah, as well as your hospital bills. Yeah.
Correct.
So another healthcare insurance that CPF has is your CareShield Life. Right, so your CareShield Life actually supports you for your longer term care needs.
Okay, yeah. So that's quite a lot of benefits.
Yeah, so CPF is quite comprehensive in the sense that you can use it for your healthcare coverage in different stages of your life and needs lah.
Right,
correct. Yeah. So talking about that, there's this thing called a basic healthcare sum that is usually tied to that. Yeah, so the BHS for short is actually the estimated savings that you need for basic subsidized healthcare in your golden years lah.
Right.
Yeah. So your BHS is actually also, simply put it, is the maximum amount that is allowed in your MA savings. Yeah.
Okay.
So when you do top up your MA savings, so let's say you reach a BHS, any excess savings will actually be transferred to your CPF accounts. Yeah, anything above the BHS. So let's say if you are below 55 years old, let's say you already reached the BHS for this year, which is 68,500, right? And then if you are below 55 years old, any excess of the amount will be flow into your special account savings. But if you are 55 and above, you know, your RA is created, so the excess will flow into your RA instead.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So another thing to note is that your BHS, it will be actually fixed when you turn 65. So let's say, like, for example, my mom is 65 this year. In 2023. So 2023, the BHS is at 68,500. So let's say when she's 66, 67 for the following years, right? Her BHS will stay at 68,500.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
so that's what I meant by when you'll be fixed for life when you turn 65.
I see. Okay, so because just like we mentioned, the self-employed is actually liable to make a compulsory MediSave contribution based on their net trade income. Yeah, so if let's say the SEP has actually reached BHS for their MediSave, are they still liable to make the compulsory MediSave contribution?
Yeah, yes, of course, because like the BHS is not tied to your MediSave contribution the BHS is not tied to any compulsory MediSave contributions that you need to make as an SEP.
Okay.
Right. So even if you hit BHS, you'll still have to, as in you'll be informed that you need to make your compulsory MediSave contributions. And then if it's excess of your BHS, also if you are below 55, you flow to your SA. If not above 55, you'll flow to your RA.
Yeah, it will just flow to the
respective, according to your age as well.
Right.
Yeah, so that's how it works. So doesn't mean you reach BHS means you can avoid the mandatory MA contribution.
I see. Okay, sure. Yeah. So with all this MediSave, right? What can I actually use my MediSave to pay for, or whichever?
Okay. So for MediSave, is like sometimes a lot of people say that, CPF savings you can see cannot touch. Yeah, but actually that's not really true lah. You can, for example, your MediSave savings, you can actually get healthcare coverage for life, right? So it be when you're at your early stages to your middle, when you're in your younger years and your golden years, you can use your MediSave as well. So let's say, for example, when you welcome your new baby, you can use it when you're conceiving, your pregnancy, delivery expenses. Also, as you go for regular screenings, checkups, vaccinations, also chronic disease treatments is also applicable.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can also use it to pay for your insurance premium. So I mentioned your MediShield Life, CareShield Life, right? There are insurance schemes as well. You can use your MediSave to pay for them, for the premiums.
Okay.
Correct.
Right.
So things like maybe even rehabilitation recovery when you're older, you're staying in a community hospital, that applies as well. Surgery, hospitalization, yeah. So there's actually a plethora of things that you can use your MediSave for lah. And you can visit MOH website for a more comprehensive list lah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So, like for example, if let's say there's actually an unfortunate event and I met with very large hospital bills, will we actually like wipe off my retirement savings, or how can CPF support all these expenses?
Yeah.
So that we can actually still access to all these basic healthcare services.
Yeah, so I think it's a very valid concern, right? Because you don't know when you'll meet with such unfortunate events. And large hospital bills are actually really, really very huge. They can wipe out your whole retirement savings at a glance. Yeah. So for that, we have MediShield Life to take care of you. Yeah. So MediShield Life is actually our basic healthcare insurance to help all Singapore citizens and PRs to pay for your large hospitalization bills and selected costly outpatient treatments like dialysis, for example. Yeah. So this applies regardless of age and any pre-existing conditions, right? So it does not reject you if you're like too old or if you already have some condition that is existing within you. Yeah. So that's the benefit of that.
Right.
So it is actually sized to be sufficient for subsidized treatments in your public hospitals. So it's like in your B2 and C wards. And actually your non-subsidized treatments are also covered, right? But do note that because your non-subsidized bills are much higher, your MediShield Life will cover a smaller portion of the bill. Yeah. So last but not least, the greatest thing about this is that it actually covers you for life. Yeah. So it won't stop at any age.
Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So can the member of public actually use just like you mentioned it could be used to pay for MediShield Life or this. Yeah. Then we understand that there's actually like riders because you also mentioned that it only covers a smaller portion of the bill itself. Is it that there's some like co-insurance or deductibles which could not be covered by this MediSave or whichever?
Yeah, okay. So just to introduce like what you talk about, like your integrated shield plans, for example, right? So integrated shield plans are people who are seeking additional coverage. They want to add on top of your MediShield Life insurance plans, right? Yeah. So these integrated shield plans, which are IPs for short, are for people who maybe prefer to stay in private wards, like private hospitals, your type B1 or A wards in your public hospitals, or maybe they even have a preferred doctor that you would like to see when they admit to the hospital. So these are maybe like two of the main factors when they consider if they want to buy an IP plan. Yeah. So for that, just to take note that is already integrated, these IP plans that are provided by private providers like Aviva, Great Eastern, NTUC Income, these are already integrated with MediShield Life. So you don't have to worry about paying double premium and having duplicate coverage.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's one thing to know if you are considering getting an IP plan. Yeah, so just now you mentioned, yes, you can use your MediSave savings to pay for your premiums for these IP plans now. Yeah, but riders it will be paid using cash.
Riders cash. Okay,
correct.
can. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so just now I mentioned MediShield Life, right? That's one of the insurance plans that CPF supports. Another one is your CareShield Life, right? So why do we actually need CareShield Life? What is this CareShield Life for?
Yeah.
So it's actually the statistics actually show like by 2030, which is not far away from now, right? 1 in 4 Singaporeans will be aged 65 or older, which is the aging population that we have currently. And 1 in 2 healthy Singaporeans that are age 65 can actually become severely disabled by the end of their lives. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so most of us eventually will actually need some form of long-term care. Yeah. So as we progressively become unable to perform some daily activities.
Correct. So it's therefore important for us to try to plan earlier for our long-term care needs, so that we don't put unnecessary burden on our families or caregivers or loved ones. Yeah. So this takes some planning, and if you're young, or you can also start planning now.
Yeah.
Correct. So to explain more about CareShield Life and how it supports us, so it's actually universal for Singapore residents born 1980 or later, starting from age 30. Yeah. So it provides you the benefit of CareShield Life is that it provides you with lifetime monthly payouts for as long as you remain severely disabled. So the definition of severely disabled is that you are unable to perform 3 out of 6 of the daily living activities. Yes, correct. So let's say you are severely disabled, you qualify for CareShield Life payouts. Your potential payouts will increase over time, starting from $612 per month in 2021.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I see.
So the premiums, again, you can pay using MediSave. It's also payable from age 30 to 67, right? So for those who are previously on ElderShield, if you are older, like let's say born in 1979 or before, ElderShield may be a more familiar term, to them. Yeah. So for those people, the government actually has some support packages for you to transition to CareShield Life as well. Yeah. So for those, we have participation incentives, and those for whom CareShield Life is mandatory, we have transitional subsidies as well.
Right.
So even for the lower to middle income, we also have means-tested subsidies, right, for Singaporeans to make sure that no one is left behind.
Right.
Yeah. So there are various support packages and schemes to help you be able to support your healthcare financing.
Okay. Yeah, so I've also heard that government is actually paying extra interest to enhance retirement savings for Singaporeans. How does the extra interest work?
Yeah, so I heard that like when you phrase it that way, it's very attractive, right? Okay, so let me explain the basic of CPF, right? So CPF, if you are below the age of 55, you have 3 accounts: your OA, ordinary account, MediSave account, MA, and your special account, FA. So your OA earns 2.5% interest, and your MA and SA earns 4% interest. Right. So this extra interest that you are talking about is that on the first 60,000 of your combined CPF balances, you earn an extra 1% interest, right? So that's 5%.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. So when you're age 55, your retirement account, which is your 4th account, will be created, and then monies from your SA and OA will flow into a retirement account, right, up to the full retirement sum. So if you're age 55 and above, congratulations, you have an additional 1%, right? So you earn up to 6% interest on the first 30,000 of your combined CPF balances.
Okay.
And then up to 5% on the next $30,000 of your combined CPF balances.
Okay, so in a way, it's like for the first $60,000 in CPF account, that there are like more interest provided.
Correct.
Okay, yeah. Then just like you mentioned that yes, there's this the 4th account coming out after age 55. So how much of the amount will be transferred over to the RA?
Correct. So the RA is basically made up of monies from your special account and your ordinary account.
Okay.
Yeah. So monies will first be taken from a special account up to the full retirement sum. If it's unable to meet the full retirement sum, then more will be taken out from the OA to be transferred to your RA.
Okay.
Yeah. So the full retirement sum for this year is $198,800. Yeah.
Right.
So that's how your RA account is created, and the balances inside will form.
Okay, can. Right. So aside from making a mandatory MediSave contribution, right, how can the SCP leverage on CPF to build on their retirement savings and to earn tax reliefs?
Yes. So just now I mentioned monies from your SA will flow into your RA. So basically SA and RAs are more for your retirements, right? Your OA is more for housing, home financing, MA is for your healthcare financing. Yeah. So you can actually make cash top-ups to support your retirement income later on. So if you are below 55, you can top up your SA, your special account, up to the prevailing full retirement sum, which I mentioned just now was $198,800. Yeah. If you are 55 and above, you can top up to the prevailing enhanced retirement sum, which is $298,200. Yeah, correct. So when you make a cash top up, you can actually get tax relief, right? Which is $8,000 when you top up for yourself, and additional $8,000 when you top up for your loved ones, right? So total is $16,000.
$16,000.
Yes, correct.
So
Yeah.
so again, back to tax itself, right? So what you're seeing is actually $16,000 of your employment income or your net trade income, such that your chargeable income is actually reduced by $16,000.
Yes, correct.
Yep.
But one thing to note that cash top-ups to your recipient's current FRS are eligible for tax relief. But if you top up from your FRS to ERS, if you breach that gap, that amount is not does not enjoy tax relief lah. Yeah, so that's something to note.
Okay, so meaning like if let's say it's transferred within the CPF account itself, there will not be any
yes, correct. That
tax
as well.
relief.
So only cash top-ups.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So maybe some of you or the audience or those of us in the webinar may be doing very well. You have top up to the maximum of your SA account and you have no other avenues, right, to top up your SA account. So you're looking for avenues to get that tax relief that we're talking about, which is quite attractive, right? So no worries, you can also get tax relief by topping up to your MediSave account, right, as long as you have not reached your prevailing BHS.
Yes.
Right, so BHS for this year, again, is $68,500. Yeah. So for SAPs especially, do remember that you must fulfill any outstanding MediSave liabilities that you have first before you top up your MediSave account.
Right.
Okay. So other than topping up to your SARA or your MA, you can also choose to make a voluntary contribution or cash top up to all three accounts, which are OA, SA, and MA, right?
Yeah.
Because just now I mentioned your OA is for your home ownership, and then SA is for your retirement, and then MA is for medical financing. Yeah, so these are three key basic needs, like I would say, in a person's life before you can actually settle, and next time in future you don't have to worry about these three basic needs, and then you can fulfill whatever hobbies or whatever you want to pursue in your golden years.
Correct. So that aside, back to tax itself, right? SAP can also enjoy tax relief on such voluntary contribution. So how will the tax relief be assessed? That will be based on the lower of 37% of your net trade income, or the CPF annual limit of 37,740, or the actual contribution made by yourself. Yeah, so this is something which you may want to consider to do a voluntary contribution, such that it not only help to build up your retirement, your healthcare account, it will also help you to reduce on your tax payable. Yeah, but do take note because such voluntary contribution is only as in the relief is only available if there's actually a positive net trade income. If that year it happens to be a negative net trade income, say for example, probably the expenses is more than the revenue. Yeah, so eventually there's a loss. Then a loss of like $10,000. So in a way, it's not a positive net trade income. If you have actually made some such a voluntary contribution, right, you may not be able to enjoy any reliefs. Yeah, so you just have to take note of when you're doing your planning. Yeah. Yeah. So retirement so far is like so far away. Yeah. So we might be as in some might be thinking, why must we start building it now? What if the members don't have money to perform all the top ups or this? Yeah.
So actually, this is maybe like something that I was thinking when I was younger myself, right? Like retirement is so far away. I'm like only maybe in my 20s last time, right? So why do I need to start saving now? Even when I start working, I can actually start saving then lah. But actually, it's good to consider trying to start now because we have the power of compound interest, right? So let's say we have this chart here, or let's do visualization image here for you to visualize how much impact compound interest actually has, right? So for example, if you top up just a small amount, if you don't have much money to do so, you can just top up $50 a month, and the amount that your top up monies can actually compound to by the end of the year is actually a lot, right? Because $50, if you think about it, $50 across 20 years will be about $12,000, right? So for compound interest at $12,000, then grows to about $18,000 or so, which is more than a 50% increase.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So the moral of the story is also to start earlier, as young as possible. So the earlier you choose to top up, of course, the better. Yeah.
It also helps for their cash flow because it wasn't like such a huge amount that they suddenly pump in. It is actually like small amount to start off.
Correct. And also you have a much longer runway, for the compound interest to keep rolling and rolling. So that's the power of compound interest.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay, so now we've come to the end of our sharing. We'll move on to the Q&A segment, which I think some of you or many of you have posted us some questions in the Q&A boxes. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so maybe we'll just pull up the Q&A questions.
Let's take a look at what questions are you interested in?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So okay, so maybe the first question will be for Ying for Iras. How do I declare that I am a self-employed person?
Okay. Okay. So basically, right, you do not need to declare that you are actually a self-employed person. As in the status itself, you are not required to declare. So what you need to do is probably for income declaration wise, right? You just need to declare the trade income earned the following year. Like for example, if let's say in 2023, you have actually swapped from an employee to a self-employed individual, right? Then what you need to do to like inform IRAS is actually instead of declaring your income under employment income, you are supposed to declare under trade income. So with your declaration of a trade income, then IRAS would have the record that you are actually transiting into an SCP. Yeah.
Okay, so that's very convenient actually.
Yes. Yeah.
And so the next question will be for me. So the question is, if I change my job, do I have to inform CPF or IRAS? And when do I have to do it? Right. So you know, when I change my job, I'm thinking it's either from a salaried employee to SCP or SCP to salaried employee, right? Whenever there's a change in status. So if you're changing from salaried employee to SCP, there's no need to register as an SCP, right? You'll actually be automatically registered when you apply for a trade license or declare your net trade income to IRAS, right? So if you are transitioning from an SCP to a salaried employee, again, there is no need to register if you have found a permanent employment.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So question for Ying, is NTI is it based on monthly?
Oh, okay. Net trade income for declaration purpose, right? It is actually based on it's actually an annual net trade income. So like just now what we mentioned earlier, if let's say we are talking about calendar year 2023, meaning income earned in your net trade income earned from 1st January 2023 till 31st December 2023, right? You are actually required to report it next year, the following year. 1st of March till 18th of April, that's the filing period. So you will declare accordingly to IRAS. Yeah. So if you have actually received any filing notification from IRAS, you will just declare accordingly. Or if not, if your net trade income is actually more than $6,000, you will also declare to IRAS accordingly. Yeah.
Okay. So next question for Ying as well. Can the records be kept in soft copy, and for how many years receipts must we keep for audit purposes?
Yeah, so this was actually covered during our sharing just now.
And things like
yeah,
that.
correct. So yes, receipt fading, all this. Yeah. So yes, you could actually keep a soft copy. The period will be for 5 years. So for example, if I say you have a receipt for expense incurred in year 2022, so you are supposed to keep this receipt all the way until end of 2027 itself. Yeah.
Okay. So next question for IRAS as well. Yeah. So this member said the slides say that entertainment expenses are not considered business expenses. Can you give definition and examples of these kind of expenses?
Oh, okay. So it really depends, because if let's say the entertainment expense is actually incurred for business purposes, like for example, you are actually meeting your client as in it incurred during your course of work itself, right, for business purposes, then you could actually claim this entertainment expenses. So what we mentioned is not claimable. It's actually those like private purposes. Like for example, if let's say this entertainment expenses is actually incurred for yourself, or even for you and your family going out for dinner or so. So those are private purposes, which is not claimable. And do remember for all these expenses to keep records. Yeah.
Okay, so next question is for me. Member says my income is not consistent. What are my options to pay my MediSave? Okay, so you can actually apply to make MediSave contributions by installments by submitting an online request through our CPF website. Of course, you log in using your SingPass lah.
Yeah.
Okay. So next question is for me as well. how do I check my outstanding MediSave liabilities? Okay, so for this, you can actually log on to our CPF website using your SingPass again and go onto your self-employment dashboard and check your outstanding MediSave liabilities.
Okay.
Next question for Iras. Is Grab driver considered self-employed and the tax input, is it the same?
Okay, yeah. Grab driver, it could be a Grab driver, it could be any private hire car driver, right? Yes, you are actually considered as a self-employed person. So your tax is actually calculated based on your net driving income. So just now, if you recall about our FEDR, the fixed expense deduction ratio, yeah. So for private hire car drivers, right, you could actually claim 60% as a deemed expense itself. So you could actually make use of that to get hold of your net trade income. Yeah.
Okay. Next question for Iras. Does business expense include car transport, for example, your delivery personnel?
Okay, so if let's say you are actually a self-employed on delivery in nature, like for example, as in it could be a Grab delivery or so, right? And you're not driving your private car, right? Yeah. So or rather, if you're is this a private car? No. Does
no,
business
I don't
expense
think
include
it's,
car transport? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if let's say it's delivery, and basically if you are not driving a private car, you could actually claim the expenses against, like for example, if let's say you are driving a motorcycle, yeah, those delivery, which we can always see a motorcycle delivery or bicycle. Yeah, so all this the expenses itself, right, as in like petrol itself, right, for the motorcycle, yeah, you could actually claim as a business expenses. But however, just to take note, because just now we did mention that private car expenses, right, is non-deductible. So even if let's say you're making use of your private car to do delivery, right, you are not able to claim a deduction.
Okay, so just make sure that you take note of what kind of like vehicle you are actually operating when doing this businesses.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So next question for Ying. If I am a renovation contractor and need my car to travel to clients' houses and site, can I claim the petrol and car expenses under allowance business expenses?
Okay, so again, back to the same thing. If it is actually a private car expenses is actually not allowable. However, if let's say you are driving a lorry, because or van, because most of the time renovation contractor, right? Yeah, they because they have a lot of equipment. So most of the time, what we see is they are actually driving lorries or even vans. Yeah, so those are commercial, as in those are non-private cars. So you could actually claim those expenses. But just take note, if you happen to be driving your private car on that particular day or so, you will not be able to claim the private car expenses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next question. Can I claim business expenses for renting a car from GetGo and Blue SG for my business?
Okay. Yeah. So for GetGo and Blue SG, they are car rental companies for private cars. So back to a private car itself. So we will suggest probably you might want to consider to take public transport or taxi or even Grab itself, because for rented cars, rented private cars, they are still considered as a private car itself. Yeah. So expenses will not be deductible.
Okay. So bottom line, private cars cannot deduct back.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. Okay. So next question will be for me. How can SCP save with CPF with an irregular income? Our finances are tight, but we're also concerned with our future. Right. So just now in the previous the last slide, right? Actually, you saw the graph on how it projected with the power of compound interest. Right. So actually you can consider to make small and regular CPF contributions if you're not able to make like a lump sum at a time, right? So even $50 or lesser than that, it's still some contribution to your different accounts. Right. So for example, if you save $50 a month in your special accounts, in over 5 years, the 3,000 that you have put in will actually earn about $309 interest. So that's actually a return of more than 10% of your amount saved, which is I think higher than most banks as well.
Correct.
Yeah, correct. So the important thing is to start now as well, start earlier.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question for me. my Medisave already has the basic healthcare sum, which is BHS for short. Do I still need to contribute? So yes, if you are NSCP asking this, yes, you still need to contribute to your Medisave, even though you have attained your BHS, right? So as I mentioned, if you are below 55 years old, any excess above the BHS will be transferred to your special account. And then if you're above 55, it will be transferred to your retirement account. Yeah. So if you do not have if you haven't hit the FRS yet, but if you have hit the FRS already, which is the full retirement sum, then any excess will then be transferred to your ordinary account.
Okay. Right.
Okay. So another question from me: why should members born before 1980 consider joining CareShield Life if it's not mandatory for them to do so? Okay, so I'm assuming that this person is maybe on ElderShield because ElderShield is the older scheme, right?
Yeah.
So CareShield Life actually, I think it started in 2020, and it provides you with lifetime coverage and lifetime monthly cash payouts, right? In the event that you become severely disabled, for as long as you are severely disabled, right? Whereas ElderShield will only provide you with money payouts for about 5 to 6 years, right? So for ElderShield, there's ElderShield 300, ElderShield 400. So ElderShield 300 will pay you $300 monthly for 5 years. ElderShield 400, $400 money for 6 years, right? So it's not by life lah, right? Yeah. So CareShield Life the payouts will also actually increase annually until you turn 67 or whenever a claim is made. Yeah, whichever is earlier. So there's an increment in payouts as well. But as ElderShield payouts, as I mentioned, is actually fixed actually on $400 a month, depending on the plan that you choose.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the benefit of going over to CareShield Life.
Yeah, it covers more years.
Yes, correct. CareShield Life is for life as well.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So for IRAS, there's a question. Taxpayers that are claiming expenses based on fixed expense ratios need not keep receipts or invoices of expenses, right?
Oh, okay. So for record keeping, right, it is still required. Yeah. So you will only qualify for the just now we mentioned about simplified record keeping, right? Yeah. So those whereby you do not need to keep invoices or receipts, right? That's actually for simplified record keeping, which means that your revenue is actually less than 200,000. So if you qualify for that, right, then yes, you just have to keep simple records, which just now we mentioned is actually keeping that means keeping your statement of accounts, your balance sheet, or your listing itself. Yeah. And the receipts and invoices is not required for that. But however, if let's say your revenue is actually more than 200,000, right, then you are still required to keep the receipts or the invoices.
Okay. Yeah. So next question from me. Can I start contributing to my Medisave account before I receive my notice of computation? So answer is yes, you can actually contribute to your Medisave account before receiving your notice, right? So because by doing so, you get to enjoy benefits such as your interest earned from your MA savings, your tax relief, and you can also use these MA savings that you have actually contributed to pay for your medical expenses, and also allows you for a hassle-free license and renewal, right? So you don't have to wait until the deadline, and then you want to renew your trade license, and then these kind of things happen, and then you have to then contribute to your MA last minute lah.
Yeah. So yeah, for tax purposes, actually, this is quite a good tax planning. As in, if let's say the SCP were to contribute early, like for example, as in right now, if let's say the process is actually, if let's say I have net trade income for calendar year 2023, I will only declare in calendar year 2024, which is what we call year of assessment 2024. Then the compulsory Medisave contribution, right, will only be billed to the individual, the SCP in year 2024, whereby if let's say they were to make the contribution in 2024, right, the relief will only happen in 2025, as in they will only be able to get the relief in 2025. So sometimes SCP might be thinking, how come my relief doesn't gel with my income itself? Yeah, so you may want to consider contributing earlier. Yeah, so like a year earlier, so that you could just do a simple calculation, just a computation of your estimated net trade income, and then you make this contribution on this year itself, so such that everything will actually be reflected the following year.
Okay, so it's always a bonus to do it earlier, right?
Yeah, correct.
So let's say if you have like a Medisave account liability, amount contributed will also be used to offset your MA liability, right, for futures. So if you do not have the liability, the amount contributed will actually be used to offset any future liabilities that you have, right? So next year, you look better in the sense that you have to contribute lesser.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Next question for CPF. Can I continue to top up my MediSave account when the BHS is increased next year? So answer is, of course, yes, you can, right? We always encourage you to top up your MediSave accounts, right? So you can top up to your MA whenever there's a deduction from your MA. You know, for example, if you use it for any lower healthcare expenses, or you're using to pay for your healthcare premiums, for example. Yeah. And whenever your MA balances drops below BHS, you can perform the top up. Yeah, up to the BHS. So for CPF, again, for myself, the next question is, isn't there a limit to the MediShield Life claims and we have to make out-of-pocket payments? Okay, so actually MediShield Life is designed to cover a large portion of your medical bills for members who undergo subsidized treatments in your public hospitals, and you choose your B2 or C wards in restructured hospitals, right? So members are actually required to pay a fixed deductible, which is about 1.5K for C wards and 2K for B2 wards and above. So there's a co-insurance of about 3 to 10% of the claim amount, and the amount above the claim limit and the amount above the claim limit. Yeah. So, and these can all be paid with MediSave and or cash.
Okay, right.
Okay. So for IRAS, another question on keeping records. They ask, can I keep for SCPs to keep a record for 5 years? Can it be screenshotted, you know, stored digitally? You know,
yeah. So again, the same answer. Yeah. So we do accept digitalized copies. So yes, screenshots and digital copies are actually allowed. Yeah.
Okay. So for IRAS again, self-employment, working from home. Can I claim my electrical, water bill, phone data plan, medical expenses, so on and so forth?
Okay, yeah. So if let's say working from home, right? If let's say it's actually meant for the electrical, the water, or the phone bills, right? It could be claimed if they are actually meant for business purposes. Yeah. So again, the same concept itself. So the expenses must be incurred wholly and exclusively for business itself, then you could actually claim the expenses. But of course, if let's say the full expenses, part of it is actually a private expense, then part of it is actually a business expense. So you will have to apportion, then only the business related expenses will be claimable. Yeah. Then another very common question is actually medical expenses. Like for example, I'm a self-employed. Then if let's say I were to incur, as in I'm not feeling well, so I go and see a doctor, so I incur medical expenses, right? So for such expenses, it's actually considered as a private expense. So the SEP may not be able to claim such private expense. But if let's say you do have staff under you, like for example, you might have some clerical staff helping you to do some paperwork, and if let's say they were to go on MC and you do provide like employees benefits for them to claim medical expenses. Yes, so those are staff's expenses, which you can actually claim against your business expense.
Right.
Yeah.
So next question for CPF. If my MediSave contributions are transferred to the special account due to BHS, am I still eligible to receive tax relief for topping up to my SA? So answer is yes, you may still receive a tax relief of up to 8,000 a year if you make any cash top-ups to your special account, as long as your special account has not met the current full retirement sum, right? So you can also top up to, other than topping up to yourself, right? You can also top up to your loved ones, SA or RA, and earn another up to another $8,000 tax relief per year. Yeah. Correct.
Okay. Right.
Okay. So another question for me. I would like to do a top up to all 3 of my CPF accounts. How do I check how much more can I top up if I already make contributions monthly? Okay, so not sure what you mean by making contributions monthly. So I'm assuming that this SCP does not have to do monthly top-ups, and an avenue is that you may use our e-cashier, right? Because it gives you the allowable limit at the point of time that you want to make a top-up, right? So you may actually use our e-cashier to check the amount of voluntary top-ups by keying your details, which is your NRIC, and selecting you can select the option to pay as an SCP and contribute to your 3 CPF accounts, which are your OA, SA, and ME. Yeah. So from there you can then check your allowable contribution.
Yeah, actually, I ever went into the e-services itself. I recall as in when we were to select a certain as in topping up, right? The system will actually auto after we have actually entered our SingPass also, the system will actually auto populate the balance amount which you are eligible to top up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whenever you're unsure, you can just log into your using your SingPass to our website and then use our e-cashier to basically check how much more is left for you to top up. Like what's the leeway available now? Correct. Okay, next question for CPF. I had used my OA savings for my BTO and would like to make a refund. Do I get tax relief? The answer is no, you will not receive a tax relief for any voluntary housing refunds made to your ordinary account, right? So for tax relief, you can only receive it by topping up to your special account. Yeah. Okay, so for IRAs, the question is, CPF relief is the lowest of whatever you mentioned just now, 37% of NTI, CPF relief cap, and actual contribution based on IRAS's notice. So for the 37% of the NTI, right, which year's NTI do we look at?
Okay, so back to the reporting itself, like so we are giving examples. Say for example, if let's say you're talking about calendar year 2023 itself, which means 1st January 2023 to 31st December 2023, which you are going to report the following year in year of assessment 2024 itself, right? 37% of the NTI is actually the calendar year itself. Say for example, so like this year, calendar year 2023, right? You have a certain net trade income, say 100,000 of net trade income, yeah. So you will be reporting the following year. The 37% of this $100,000 is calculated based on 2023's income itself. Yeah. So and of course, contribution must be made in 2023 itself, so that you can actually earn this particular relief in the following year of assessment. Yeah.
Okay. So another question for us, what is SRS and how do I go about setting up an account for it?
Okay, so SRS is very different from CPF.
Yes,
okay, yes, SRS is also another revenue. Definitely, CPF cash top up to retirement account. It is actually one revenue to build out your retirement fund, and also to reduce on your taxes because it functions as a tax relief as well. So for SRS is actually in long is actually supplementary retirement sum. It is actually not administered by CPF board. It is actually administered by banks. So which are the three banks? Only that three banks basically is DBS, POSB, OCBC, and UOB itself. Yeah, so you could, if you are interested, you could set up the account from only one of that three banks, and then because basically you can only set up one SRS account, and you can make contribution accordingly. So just a note to take note, as a note is that the maximum contribution for Singapore citizen is actually $15,000, $300 into this SRS account per year. Yeah, and of course, the relief you're getting is actually the amount you top up, or up to $50,300.
Okay.
Yeah, correct.
So next question again for IRAS, can you compare SRS and CPF top up?
Okay, we will compare as a tax authority based on the relief itself. So like what we mentioned, SRS is actually a voluntary scheme itself. Right? It allows individuals to save for their retirement. Similarly, CPF cash top up is also a voluntary scheme. It also allows individuals to save top up to their own SRS account, their own CPF account to gain reliefs. But for CPF itself, right? Additionally, you could actually top up for your loved ones. So if let's say we are talking back to SRS itself, right? SRS is only topping up to my own SRS account, but whereas CPF, I could actually top up to my own CPF account as well as my loved ones. Yeah, so definitely both schemes offer tax benefits, but the rules on what it can be used for, or and the limits are actually different. So one of the very significant difference is that just now Nicole has actually mentioned that CPF definitely has got interest, the higher interest. Yeah, for SRS account itself, right? The account itself does not give you any interest, but of course you could actually use the monies in the SRS account to go for investment or any other insurance products also. That's where you will gain the additional interest itself. Yeah, so they are really very, very different. And it is really up to individuals to decide which one to go for, or if let's say you belongs to the higher income earner, it might be that both schemes are also you may also benefit in both top ups.
Yeah, and I know that also like planning is required when you're drawing for SRS, right? So the drawing is also a bit different lah.
Yeah,
SRS
correct.
and CPF. So these are things to consider.
Yes, correct. So so just top up. So CPF withdrawal is not taxable. But however, SRS withdrawal, right? 50% of your withdrawal will be taxable. If yours is actually a matured withdrawal meaning your withdrawal must happen after the statutory retirement age itself. So for now, recently it has been increased to age 63. But for SRS purposes, right, it depends on when the individual open up and top up the first account and the first dollar itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question is for me. So it asks, what happens if I do not make my mandatory MediSave contributions? Is there a penalty? Okay, so for SCPs, you are actually required to make this contribution under the CPF Act. This is also basically because we want you to have enough MediSave savings for your healthcare needs, especially when you're old and you have stopped working, then you need some form of healthcare financing, right? So for SCPs who are not up to date with their MediSave contributions, either you are not in an active gyro plan or you have not fully paid up in full, you will not be able to apply or renew for your trade licenses. Yeah, and the CPF board may also enforce payments from SCPs only if you have failed to make the payments after repeated reminders. Yeah, so please do remember to make your mandatory MediSave contributions now.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question for CPF. I understand there are withdrawal limits for MediShield Life IP and CareShield Life supplement premiums. Do they share the same limit? Okay, so these are actually two separate withdrawal limits for MediShield Life IP and CareShield Life supplement premiums. But do note that the limits are actually inclusive of you and your family members' premiums if you are paying for them. So that's something to consider.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
So next question for CPF. Are CPF Life and Retirement Sum Scheme the same? Okay, so CPF Life is actually a mandatory scheme for members who are born on 1st January 1958 onwards, and if they have at least $60,000 in their retirement account when they turn 65 years old. So CPF Life actually provides you with lifelong money payouts for members regardless of what plan they choose, right? So for CPF Life, we have three plans: basic, escalating, and standard plan, right? Yeah. So as compared to the retirement sum scheme, right, members who are on this scheme, they will stop receiving money payouts from their retirement account when the RA balance depletes to zero. Yeah. So CPF Life is lifelong, lifelong for as long as you live, and RA either will stop when it depletes to become zero. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Okay. So question for IRAS. Is cash top-up relief of $8,000 applicable if my SA is below BRS? Can you please explain again?
BRS as in
basic retirement sum. Yes, correct.
Okay, right. Yeah, so for CPF cash top up, right, the limit is actually how we compute is actually the FRS minus your current SA savings in the SA account, and any amounts from the SA that was actually withdrawn for investment. Yeah, so if let's say after this such computation, if it is actually more than the FRS, or is it after you minus or rather after you collate all this amount, if it is actually above the FRS amount, right, then you will not be able to claim basically you will not be able to do any top up already, right? I believe as in if let's say you go to eCashier or whichever the system will also prompt you that
anything above FRS will flow into your OA.
Yeah, correct. So long as it doesn't really go into the SA already, right, you will not be able to get that particular relief itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
So another question for us, if my income is $160,000 and MediSave contribution is the maximum required, how much more can I contribute to SA for maximum tax saving?
Okay, so if let's say I suppose it's actually a net trade income of 160,000, right? So yeah, so to be eligible for the relief, right, the cash top up MediSave is actually kept at, by BHS as for MediSave. Then the special account is actually kept by FRS itself. So you could actually do a top up to your special account if I say it is actually below the FRS itself, then which the limit will actually adjust every year. So for example, just now Nicole was mentioning that this year is actually $19,800, right?
For FRS.
Yeah,
yes,
correct. Yeah, so coming 1st of January 2024 itself, right? It will increase. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't remember the increased amount, but if let's say this year you have actually hit FRS the maximum already, right? Then if you would like to catch this cash top up relief, right? What you need to do is probably once coming next year, right? You just see how much is actually the increased amount, and you could actually proceed to make the top up. Then you will be able to actually claim the necessary reliefs. Yeah,
okay,
correct.
Okay. Next question for Iras. I have used CPF to pay for down payment of my BTO. Then I want to pay back the CPF used by topping up with cash. Can I get tax relief for this?
I think this question is very similar to just one of the questions. Yeah. So yeah, which we have already mentioned that only the top up to special account for recipient below age 55 or retirement account for recipient above 55 and above qualifies for tax relief. Yeah. So any payback of CPF for HDB. So right, it is actually not considered as a cash top up.
Yes,
yeah.
So your voluntary housing refund is not under doesn't qualify for any tax refund.
Correct.
Okay. So next question for CPF. For members who are above 55 years old, can they top up more than the enhanced retirement sum? Okay, so for those who are 55 years and above, you can top up to the current enhanced retirement sum each year. So for example, if you top up to this year's ERS, you may top up to the new ERS next year, right? So again, like just now I mentioned, you can monitor what is the next, what's the new amount for the ERS for next year, and then you can just bridge that gap.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Next question for Iras. If I have to attend minimum hour of training, pay for license renewal, are those tax deductible as an SCP? Why can't I claim for medical expenses if I'm the only staff at the SCP?
Okay. Yeah. So first of all, if let's say you were to attend, if SCP were to attend training, right? You will not be able to claim training expenses under deductible business expenses. However, you could actually claim it as cost fee reliefs. Yeah, so the cost fee relief, you could actually claim up to $5,500 in the year which you attend the training itself. Yeah, so license renewal. So for license renewal, yes, it is actually considered as a business expense, deductible business expense. So you could actually claim it against your revenue itself. Yeah, and the last one is actually medical expenses for SEP itself, right? Yeah, so I'm so sorry, but you're actually unable to claim medical expenses as it is actually not incurred to generate your income. So in a way, it's actually a private expense per se. So such private expense is actually not claimable because SEP is actually not considered as an employee of the company itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so for example, like just now you mentioned, if you have staffs who are going for medical checkup, things like that, or medical expenses, that one you can claim.
Yeah, correct. If the staff has actually claim the medical expenses against claim from you, then those are staff expenses.
Business expenses.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
So next question for CPF, if I do not meet my BHS in my MediSave account, does it mean I can't use my MediSave account for my medical expenses? The answer is no, right? So you don't really have to meet your BHS to be able to use it, right? You can use your MediSave savings up to the applicable withdrawal limits, right? For as long as you have savings in your MA. Yeah, correct.
So BHS is basically the whether or not you want to top up.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So BHS is actually the maximum amount that your MA savings can and have at any point in time. Right. For the year. Yeah.
Yes.
Correct. Okay, so question for Iras. if I want to top up to my SA under the voluntary contribution up to $8,000, and I have to top up my mandatory MediSave, how does that affect the tax relief of my 37% of my net trade income amounts?
Okay, so if I say you're topping up your special account under voluntary contribution, it should be a CPF cash top up, I suppose. CPF, and I have to top up my
cash top up. Yes,
cash
CPF
top up. Then MediSave, how does it affect my 37% of my NTI? So cash top up is actually a separate scheme itself. Yeah, so for cash top up itself, right, it allows if I say SEP were to do a cash top up to retirement account of up to $8,000, that itself is actually a relief by itself. Okay, then of course the mandatory MediSave is actually a CPF contribution relief itself. So that 37% is actually on the contribution, not a top up. So that $8,000 of cash top up will not eat into that 37% of the net trade income. So the 37% of net trade income is purely for voluntary contribution or mandatory MediSave contribution, what we term as contribution. So you collate all the contribution, then apply 37% of your NTI to determine how much of tax relief you could actually have you could actually gain for your CPF relief. So it's just two separate reliefs. Yeah, correct.
Okay. And next question for CPF. For SEPs, is there a difference if I top up to MA or SA first? If so, which has the priority? Okay, so this question is actually really depending on your personal preference and your priorities lah. Because you know, for your MA is for your healthcare financing, right? So topping up to your MA actually builds savings for your healthcare needs, right? While topping up to your SA, it actually builds for your retirement. Because you know, SA, when you're 55, your retirement account is created, and then monies from your SA will flow into your RA, right? So SA ultimately is for your retirement income in your golden years, right? So regardless of which top up you choose, you'll enjoy the base interest of 4%, and of course your tax relief, right, of up to $8,000 per year if you top up for yourself.
Yeah, so it really depends on your preference. Yeah, your priority.
Okay, so now we move on to the last three questions. So for IRAS, how do I fill up in SEP self-declaration that I'm a parcel worker? What company name should I put?
Okay. So for SAP declaration, actually, company's name is actually not a compulsory field. So it is just like any like self-employed individual, like for example, property agent, insurance agent, right? We don't expect you to fill in any company's name if, let's say, you do not have any registered business with ACRA. So company's name you could just leave it blank. Then do indicate the nature of business. Yeah, so the nature of business for this case will be a delivery worker itself. Yeah, so just look out for the option for such. Yeah, then you just select accordingly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So question for CPF, can an employed person also do a top up to all three CPF accounts? Of course you can, and we know we highly encourage you to do so, right? So you can do a voluntary top up to all three CPF accounts, your OA, SA, and MA, and you can top up the difference between the annual CPF limit, which is $37,740, and your mandatory CPF contributions. However, do note that there is no tax relief for employees if you do a top up to all three accounts.
Yeah, so basically, if there's no net trade income reported, right, the voluntary contribution does not earn any reliefs for that particular individual. Yeah.
Okay, so let's come to the last question for IRAS. Can I top up my son's CPF account and get a tax relief?
Okay, yeah, so for this question, right, for CPF cash top-up relief is only eligible if, let's say, you top up for yourself, your parents, your parent-in-law, or your grandparents, or your grandparent-in-law, spouses or siblings itself. So we are afraid to inform you that topping up to children's account is actually not eligible for any reliefs. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, so I guess we also highly encourage you to top up for not say don't top up for your children, but of course they have a longer runway, right, to accumulate their savings in their different CPF accounts, right? Yeah, so preferably a cash top up for yourself or those your parents-in-law, grandparents, basically people that Ying mentioned is more preferable.
Yeah, correct.
Okay, so we've come to the end of our Q&A session, and I'd like to thank you, of course, for your very enthusiastic your enthusiasm and paying attention to this the presentation as well.